Welcome to Reimagine Childhood, brought to you by Early Childhood Christian Network, where we equip you with the tools you need so you can confidently care for and teach young children. We know you want to provide the very best early childhood experience for children and for their parents. But sometimes you feel frustrated and ill-equipped because the training that's required is not interesting, or it's just not applicable to your daily needs in the classroom. In every episode, we reveal practical, applicable strategies to use in your classroom that will create a lasting impact and will help children build the foundations they need for a lifetime of success. It's time to reimagine our approach to childhood. I'm your host, Monica Healer. Michon Henneger is my guest today, and she is on a mission to boost brains and brighten futures. With over 30 years of experience in education and certification as a brain coach with Dr. Daniel Amen, she combines neuroscience with practical strategies to improve learning, focus, and leadership. Known for her engaging style and relatable approach, Michon equips learners of all ages with tools to think sharper, lead stronger, and thrive. Today, we get to talk about using Puppet as one of our teaching strategies. I think you'll enjoy this very practical conversation about supporting deeper learning and adding an element of fun and joy to your classroom. A quick note, Michon had some Puppet with her to demonstrate, so you might want to check out our YouTube channel. Michon, welcome to the podcast today. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Today, we're talking about something, we talked about this just a little bit before I hit record, that sometimes I feel like puppets are old school, and I think what they really are is the classic tool that we sometimes put to the side. So I'm excited to talk with you today about how we can use puppets in our classroom in practical, easy ways, and why it makes a difference for children learning that we do things like puppets. It doesn't always have to be puppets, but tell me, what is it about puppets that makes them so effective for engaging young children?
Well, I think, Monica, for a long time, like what you just said earlier, they are something that have been out there for a very long time. We look at multiple programs. Now, this is, of course, very old school, but how about Captain Kangaroo? Because it had the bunny and all these different little characters. You look at Mr. Rogers, same thing, little puppet. And the puppets are helping these children to be able to connect. And I think it's something that we can use that will really help engagement. Number one, it will also help retention and learning. Using them in the early childhood setting is perfect, but I think it's a tool that's drifted away. And all the new things have come, technology has come. Often we may think of it as something old school, and yet there's so much research in it. Even if you look at new shows right now, I love Holy Sprouts. That's a great little show. They use a little puppet on there. His name is Pepper, which is the show Miss Rachel. Miss Rachel has a little puppet there too. There's lots of research that comes with puppetry and young children. What we have found in that research is that anytime a child can connect to a puppet, it has that lifelike feeling to them. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh my goodness, what's happening? Even if you think about Disney, a lot of people have been to Disneyland, Disney World, and we see these characters that are dressed up. We even have them in some of our churches. We have a little character that's dressed up. And what does everyone do? They're waving and they want to say hello, and they love it when the character blows them a kiss, waves at them, or just acknowledges them and gets down to their eye level. It's an extra tool that can be used to really help with engagement and learning.
Yeah. I love that we can use puppets for so many different things. But I love the connection part, that a puppet telling them a story or teaching them a lesson feels less threatening than a teacher's voice. It creates an inviting moment for them where their brains are lighting up and saying, oh, it's something different, something new, that spark of, I wonder what's going to happen next. So talk to me a little bit about how we can use puppets in the classroom to support development. Specifically, what seems obvious to me is they're very helpful for emotional development, but I know there's more than that. So talk to me about that.
I think a puppet can be used in so many different ways. In the early childhood classroom, I like using them, first of all, in our circle time. In the morning, I have a skunk puppet. And when we do the good morning song, everyone says good morning to someone else. Right. Either they point to them and they wave to them, say good morning. So I use my skunk puppet, and they know the skunk will spray them if that's going to be the person that's chosen. But they're super excited, hoping that the skunk chooses them to say good morning. And I just lift the tail and I'm like, shh, Like, it's just a fun little good morning. What I to do is get their brains engaged. And then, of course, at the end, because everyone wants to be sprayed by the skunk, I just spray the whole group. We go all the way around. They giggle and laugh. But that happiness, like that point where we're just getting engaged into the day, what it does is it turns the brain on. And now they're starting to ready to be listening and learning. The other thing I often tell people is puppets are great to connect to stories. You can use a storybook, and I even have a couple little examples here. I use this set a lot by MVP Kids. They have different little book characters. And so this little book character, you can see her, she even has a plant. So it's a great way to connect with children, maybe if they have special needs or any kind of different thing where they can connect and say, that puppet looks like me, right? I have here and one has a little yellow headband and wears a dress, and they're like, oh, that's like me, right? This little book, you can see the puppet is actually right there in the book.
And that's helpful.
You can make that connection. Often in the springtime, we'll have a lot of little stories with the farm and the duck, right?
Yeah.
Like a little book about a duck, and then I would have a duck puppet. It's interesting to the brain. And then it's also where children can touch it, and anything that's tactile is going to help them remember more.
Absolutely.
So I think that's another way that we can use it. I'll show you one other example. I use this a lot with like 3s and early 4s, and started off even with 2-year-olds. You can get little things like this one is farm animal toys, and it's all the little barns, and they're different colors. But people don't realize that they're actually finger puppets inside. Okay, so I'm just going to show you. So you've got a little pig, and now it's a little finger puppet. I can do role play between these two little characters on the farm.
Oh, yeah.
This is great for kids. I could also count all the different animals. So I could bring it into, I can also name the different animals. Like this is a pig, right? Everyone say pig. Or what letter does pig start with? I'm able to do a lot of language development with puppets.
Yeah. It just makes everything a little bit more fun. And I love it. There's so many different kinds of puppets. I think that sometimes is a limiting thing for us. Like I think of a puppet in my brain. When I thought of a puppet, I'm thinking of the ones you have sitting back on your credenza back there, like a little person puppet. You put your hand in their back, you can move their mouth, maybe you can move their head around. I had totally, like in my brain today, I definitely did not think about finger puppets. And yet, finger puppets are super easy and also so engaging for young children. You can do multiples all at the same time, and they're tiny, which I think connects to them even better. Because finger puppets are their size, right? They're little compared to everything else. There's so much. I love it. I love it. Thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit how you use puppet for storytelling specifically. You mentioned it a little bit with book, like character puppets that match the book. What about Bible stories?
So Bible stories are probably one of my favorite things. You can actually purchase puppets that are similar to this little puppet form that are all the Bible characters. I think we probably have about 15 different Bible characters. We have one of Jesus.
So fun.
And then we have the 3 kings. We have different little Bible puppets. So I can read the story to the children. And I have my little Bible storybook here. I love this little Heyo Bible. It's a cute, but there's a lot of great ones out there. The Beginner's Bible, I use that one a lot as well. Yeah. And after I've read the story to them, I can go back and retell the story. If I use something like a stick puppet, let me show you one that we have here. This one is a printable. Let me take it out really quick. And so we have a little printable that the kids could even make their own. They also have a little tree. So we're going to retell the story of Jesus. And Jesus comes and he sees Zacchaeus up in the tree, right? Zacchaeus, I need you to come down and go to your house today for tea. And he comes down and we reenact the story and they go down the road together.
Yeah.
The goal is, as I'm retelling it, they'll remember from the story that I read them. Now I'm seeing it. And then they can take this home and they can tell their family, or they might even tell a friend in class.
Yeah.
And little stick puppets are also really great for reinforcement, especially for Bible stories.
So this takes me to my next question, which is how can we add puppets on a budget? Stick puppets are one of the easiest ways. Talk to me a little bit about puppets on a budget, because some puppets can get quite pricey. The really nice, fancy ones. Regardless of our budget, we can add them to our classroom in a different way. Talk to me a little bit about that.
There's a lot of reasonable puppets out there. I tell people if you're getting started and you want puppets, you can look on Amazon. Amazon has some great puppets. There's also some faith-based puppet companies that don't cost as much. One was called One Way Street, but now they're called One Squared. Get a place you can get them, or Puppets Inc. I've ordered from them, and they have some great things. Plus, they have little scripts like for Bible stories. Okay, so that's like a nice little added piece. So looking at maybe just some different companies and saying, okay, what is something that's more affordable? For example, this little set that I showed you with the animals, this is
Yeah.
Amazon, and I think it cost me maybe $12. It's a great gift I even give to people who have brand new babies. I'm like, make sure you're like doing this like little finger play with the kids. Another thing that is fun and simple and easy if you want to make some puppet characters is taking a paintbrush and brush the top like the hair, and you can make a little paintbrush character.
Cute.
Because we often think of sock puppets.
You reminded me, like years ago, I made puppets out of wooden spoons. I just went to the dollar store and bought wooden spoons and glued yarn hair on the top of the spoon. And then they had their little characters. I had totally forgotten about that. But such an easy and cheap way to add them to your arsenal. These are great things to have in your tool belt as a teacher. I also love them in kid centers. Like as you're sending kids to play, what if you just added puppet to a block center, or especially like the stick puppets? I love the stick puppets that you just showed. Like we're doing them together during story time. We're using the stick puppets together. And then we can put them in a dramatic play area. Sure, if you have a puppet stage, fantastic. But even if you don't, put them in a block center, dramatic play area at home living, or writing center even, just for kids to process what they're learning, to repeat what they're learning, to share with their friends. And then think puppets especially are awesome to take home. You can do some pretty awesome finger puppets, like paper finger puppets, where you cut them out or put a little band on them so they sit on their fingers. Yeah. Write them home. I think it gives kids a really fun way to rehearse, to repeat, to practice the stories, the concept, whatever you taught during that day. It makes it easy and fun. Let's pause this amazing conversation for just a minute so I can share something fun. First, you know you have to get training hours every year. Or maybe you're like me and you're a lifelong learner and you actually love training. You prefer to bounce ideas off of other people who do what you do rather than just listening to a lecture. You'd love to hear from a real live trainer who's passionate about what they teach. And you want affordable training. And you want it all from a biblical perspective. Well, we have the answer at Early Childhood Christian Network. Join us at one of our regional conferences throughout the state of Texas. 6 hours of in-person training, DONE, done for you in one Saturday. As low as $80 per person, and that includes lunch, y'all. High quality, engaging presenters who train from a biblical perspective. We're coming to a city near you. Tyler, Lubbock, Bryan College Station, Houston, and San Antonio in this season. Go to earlychildhoodchristiannetwork.com and click on events for all the details. While we love connecting with you on this podcast, it would be even better to connect with you in person soon. Let's get back to our conversation. What do we do with teachers who feel timid? Sometimes, especially with mouth movement, you have to be all in. How do we make teachers who are a little bit shy, feel a little bit awkward? How do we encourage them to pull out that puppet and use it?
One of the easiest ways is to start with the song, and the puppet just sings along with the song in the background, right? You're just moving the mouth, but you're not actually doing the voice for the puppet. Another one, and I have this little puppet here. This is our little dragon puppet that we use. I got him on Amazon. He just watches the kids, and then he's laughing. And if he likes something, if they did a great job, he'll breathe fire. So if I'm timid and I'm not sure what to do, just using a puppet, especially if it has big eyes and it's just kind of watching and nodding like that, or the open mouth, I think that's a starting point. When you have songs, the puppet's just dancing along. I think that's great. The puppet can be singing along, even though it's not that voice. The kids love it that the puppet's there and it's interactive. And again, it goes back to that same point that when kids thought that there was something lifelike about it, there was a piece. Okay. So even if it's the stick puppet, like Jesus is saying, Zacchaeus, come down from there. And you can do voices. We could change our voice up like Zacchaeus, come down from there. And when I start changing my voice up, then kids start doing the same thing. The other day, they wanted to tell me a story, but they brought 2 stuffed animals. And both people had a different voice than the child, even on a television show. And for those teachers that are like, oh, I don't know, I'm a little unsure, I'm going to say, just bring it and let it dance with the music and maybe nod, and very simple pieces like that will help.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually think that's a really easy entry point, regardless of your comfort level. And here's the other thing. These are preschoolers, y'all. Even if you're moving their mouth not at the same time as your actual word, the kids don't care. They're just excited that there's a new friend in the classroom or somebody else that is making things a little bit different and a little bit fun. Using the puppet as an observer, I love that. And the dragon is super cute. It makes it easier for kids to keep doing what they're doing. Even if you end up sitting down and taking notes and doing true documentation, the dragon is who is observing. It's not you. And so it keeps kids a little bit more in their natural tendencies rather than getting nervous about somebody watching them. So I love that. And that really is an easy way for you to not have to think, I need to find a voice or I need to have a real character. It really is just an extra piece that calms children and helps them feel at ease and also just have more.
I think keeping the surprise factor, not with all your puppets. I think some of the puppets need to be left out all of the time. So, like the little characters that are behind me, goes out all the time. And the reason is that children can actually associate with them. I would also have some fun puppets available for them to play with. But the surprise factor piece is that there are some puppets, like my dragon, they don't play with the dragon.
Yeah.
That's my dragon. They know that. And then the dragon will go into hiding, goes to sleep, and he's taking his nap, and we'll see when he comes back out. The kids are anticipating that the dragon's going to come back out. Again, it's the same concept they use at any amusement park when they have the characters come out. If you're at Knott's Berry Farm and you have Charlie Brown come out or Snoopy, you're waiting. That character is going to come out. It's not out all the time. You want to keep that little surprise factor with puppets.
That anticipation level is really beneficial in learning. Is there a benefit to encouraging children to use puppets?
Absolutely. It's a great way for them to rehearse something, maybe process something. We've also found that it's really great for problem solving, especially when it arises. And we can do some role play. As the teacher, I can role play between two puppets, and the children have the ability to go and take the same puppets and role play the same way. It's interesting to watch two children solve a problem. I have two puppets that one knocks over a block tower and the other one uses language to ask them, please, not to do that next time. And then you see two children using puppets to do the same thing. I think that's incredible. Even that they can take them out like toddlers, right? In our pre-K programs, they can name them, play with them. And I love exactly what you said. Put them in centers, put them in different places to really encourage that language. If I've modeled it once, the children are going to be able to take that and just keep repeating the process and building on it. They have curiosity, which is leading them to that creativity piece. And so it's a perfect way for children to be able to use puppets. And then I think we go back to the part with the Bible story, the little stick puppets we have and the Bible story characters. I want to include that in a faith-based center. I want to have a little center that is specifically for Bible, where they can go back and look at picture cards and the little stick puppet and retell the story. Because again, the more that I rehearse it, the better it's going to stick in my brain.
And I think the more engaging that experience is, the stronger the neural connection. When you're building on those experiences and the children are excited to repeat and practice, those neural connections only get stronger. And the more we can do that, especially in the faith concept that we're teaching, all the better.
We want them to understand their faith and be able to stand up in the world in which we live.
Yeah. Well, and we want them to have a solid foundation. Not just, we told you a Bible story once while you were in preschool, but we also shared the truth of God, the overarching concept of how big God is. And then we did it using puppets, stick puppets or finger puppets or bigger puppets, or hand puppets. But we did it in a way that was so engaging that they wanted to keep learning. I think that desire to keep going further, that desire to keep repeating, that's when those brain connections really are solidified.
It's so true. I did a lot of work during the pandemic with pre-K and almost 40 kids on Zoom during the pandemic. It went on for over a year that I kept those children with me. A lot of them now are in second and third grade. They still remember the puppets and the things the puppets would teach them. Memory verses with the puppet. Here's another one for the teacher that is a little bit unsure. Have a memory verse puppet. And you say the memory verse and the kids say it with the puppet. So all you're doing is like, trust in the Lord. And then the puppet just says it with the kids, trust in the Lord, right?
Wow.
Back and forth. And that's another great way. And kids will remember those verses and the things that we taught them.
Somehow the learning is more powerful when you add the unexpected. It's more powerful than just you saying something to them. It really becomes more of an experience when you add something like a puppet to the lesson.
It just makes it come more alive, and I'm excited and I'm anticipating what's coming. I have no idea. Instead of it just being the same every day. Okay, we sing the song, we're going to read a story. You never know what's going to happen. I do a whole training, Monica, on something called the magic bag. And really the bottom line on the magic bag is this. Every day I bring things in that bag and the kids don't know what's going to be in there.
Yep.
So they get to see all the different things. And it might just be a new little puppet character. It could be something with a theme we're teaching.
Right.
Maybe it could be like if you could have like your Bible storybook in there and you could have a bookmark in a specific place. They see everything that comes out of the bag that day, which what it does is I'm anticipating that something fun is going to happen.
It's literally you're priming those brain synapses for what's about to happen. We're priming the pump for deep learning just by doing these little extra fun things. It doesn't take that much extra time to plan or prep, but it increases the learning exponentially.
So true.
Closing out this episode, what's one easy, practical idea that somebody could implement this week?
I think one practical thing is just take yourself into that place to say, what's one puppet? Just one.
Yeah.
And connect it to a verse that you're going to teach, connect it to a song, and make that your goal this week. One puppet connected to one learning activity. Keep it simple and have fun with it. I think that's, as a teacher, have fun. That's what makes learning the best. Model for kids how to have fun with learning. That would be my suggestion. Find one puppet. It could be your spoons that you talked about earlier, right? It could be the paintbrush. It might be ordering one fun puppet on Amazon. Find one puppet and connect it to one learning activity this week.
The big puppets that you showed earlier are actually a part of a curriculum that you're developing. Talk to us a little bit about that and what's included in that.
Our program is called Pre-K Playday. Pre-K Playday gives you 52 weeks of pre-K curriculum. We have learning calendars that go with that and lots of reproducible activities. Right now, we're adding on all of the Bible pieces. And
I
so
love that.
there will be all different kinds of printables. But one of the big pieces that I showed you is that we have the printables that make stick puppets for lessons that we teach. Now, there's other activities that we just share with the teachers, but that's one thing that we're adding on. Pre-K Playday is our program. And the way that came about, Monica, was during the pandemic. We really didn't have any plans on making this, but I always say that God's ideas are totally different than ours. So many people needed help during the pandemic that we created over 400 videos with puppets teaching the alphabet, numbers, colors, shapes. They can be played in a classroom or used for professional development to help newer teachers learn how to teach concepts. We followed the guidelines where you're going to be teaching. If you looked at Macy, you have all the different domains and components. All of those are in there with Pre-K Playday. But again, a big integration using puppets. And the puppets aren't like these puppets, okay? They're more like Sesame Street puppets. The Bible piece is what we're working on right now and super excited. We have the Christmas story done. Easter is done. And then like some of the other ones, like I just showed you, the one with Zacchaeus and Jesus and adding.
Yeah. I love that. We'll definitely link to your website in the show notes. So y'all be looking for that. And last question that I like to end every episode with. We call our podcast Reimagine Childhood. And I'd love to hear from you, Michon. What one way that you would reimagine our approach to early childhood right now?
I think one way we can reimagine early childhood right now is to look back at things that used to be considered successful. How can I use that today? I think puppetry is one of them. Before the interview, I was looking at different shows that use puppets. And we talked about that at the top of the hour today. But imagine, what would your classroom look like if you used some things that were used in the past and they were very successful? It's interesting, even right now, we have such this leaning towards all of these wooden toys.
Right.
For a long time, we didn't have any wooden toys. Everything was plastic and full of color. Now there's some color, but a lot of wood. So you imagine saying, what would happen if I went back and I looked at something that was successful in the past? How could I use that today? Would it still be successful today? It's the science of reading, right? A lot of people are like, oh, it's all brand new. And I heard someone say the other day, actually, it's phonics. We're teaching phonics again. Cycle. So when you're reimagining early childhood, look back and see what worked in the past that you can use today.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise on puppetry and your heart for early childhood. I love that we get to connect with guests on our podcast who love young kids and want the best for them. I appreciate you being on our podcast this week.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
So what are you going to do in your classroom this week? I personally love the idea of simple puppets like paintbrushes with googly eyes or wooden spoons with yarn hair. One of my favorite parts of the conversation was when Michon talked about using her dragon puppet as an observer. He didn't actually need to say anything. He just wandered around the room, seeing what the children were up to. I'd love for you to check out prekplayday.com or mybraincoach.com to see what else is Michon up to. As always, what you do really matters. So when you make learning the most fun, you actually make it the most impactful. I can't wait to hear how you're using puppets in your classroom this year. Send us a picture of you and your favorite puppet. We'd love to see it. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Reimagine Childhood with Early Childhood Christian Network, where you'll get practical ideas to implement in your classroom today. You might even be challenged to change your mind about a few things, and you'll always be reminded that your work matters. If you love this episode, would you subscribe and then share it with your coworkers, friends, and family? You can connect with us on a regular basis on Instagram at Early Childhood Christian Net. That's Early Childhood Christian Net. And on Facebook at Early Childhood Christian Network. Remember to visit our show notes for more great resources. We're so glad you're here. See you next time.